Hi there, I'm Rachel Matthews, and I'm an international garden designer and best-selling author, and I help design-conscious homeowners create a stylish and affordable garden layout in just 10 days so they can have the satisfaction of creating a unique space without wasting time and money. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 great tips that will enable your garden to have the wow factor. So if you've felt stuck and frustrated and you're struggling and don't know where to start, this video will give you some great tips on exactly what you need to do. But congratulations on being one of the few people that actually take the time to research how to design your garden properly. So few people do, and I've seen so many people waste hundreds, sometimes thousands of pounds or dollars in their garden because they haven't done the right thing. So many people try the trial and error gardening, and that just doesn't work, and it's very costly.
And what I'm going to show you now is one part of the overall step-by-step formula that I've developed to make designing a garden simple. So a little bit about me if this is your first training with me. I've been designing gardens all over the world for over 25 years and teaching garden design online for over 10 years, helping hundreds of people all over the world with no design experience create a fantastic design themselves. So that's enough about me, on with this training. Now, the reason most people struggle is because of the information out there focuses on the wrong things, which I'll cover at the end of this video. But if you think about the average garden, they tend to be a bit hit and miss, with things put in here and there, and an attempt has been made at landscaping, but it never quite looks right, it never looks coherent, and things are just sort of dotted and placed around the garden, and that never works. So if you're feeling stuck and frustrated, then this video is definitely for you. I'm going to give you some top tips that designers use with great effect that give the design a feel without the design price tag, adding the wow factor to your garden. So let's run through our 5 tips now. Tip 1. Line it all up. Now tip 1 is something people very rarely think about, and this is a hidden trick that designers use to great effect, and that's how to line things up. So for example, say you want to put in a pergola or statue in your garden. Rather than just plonking them in wherever there's a space, like a lot of people do, take a step back and whenever possible try to line up your features with the doors or windows of your house, so that these features punctuate your view lines or sight lines, drawing the eyes down the garden and creating a visual full stop. Having somewhere for the eyes to stop and pause in the garden brings clarity as well as adding interest, and when it's lined up with key views from the house, it subtly helps tie in the house with the garden. Whenever you can line up the house with the garden like this, it helps soften the stark contrast between the natural world and the man-made one. As I say, this trick is subtle, but don't underestimate the power of it. When things aren't lined up properly, the garden just feels awkward and weird. Like if you look at the bottom picture of this, it's just a very simple bird bath at the end of the path. Imagine if that was like a couple of feet off to the left or to the right and it didn't line up with the path and those patio doors there. Say that path was off to one side. It just wouldn't look right. And the pergola there framing the view down the garden over the path and to this bird bath here. Very simple feature. But if that wasn't lined up properly, and believe me, I've seen it done, it sounds quite obvious to line things up, but so few people do it. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So you can see this property here. It's got some lovely steps, a big lawn at the top nearest the house, and then this nice path and an archway at the bottom. Now, if we look at how the garden looked before, you can see just a very random, bizarre path plonked in with an archway that does not line up from the house at all, and just an open expanse of lawn. Your eyes just don't know where to look. But now if we look at the designed garden, your eyes have drawn down the garden. Okay, so tip 2 is to go large. Having big features in the garden really creates impact, especially if you've followed the first tip of lining things up properly, so everything just fits together nicely. A statement piece like a large pot, sculpture, or even really big leaf plants can have tremendous difference to the wow factor of your garden. And if something is positioned correctly within a design, you can really go for it and be bold and courageous. Having a large statement piece in the garden will do a lot more than a series of smaller objects of interest, especially with the visual impact. So don't be scared to go large in your garden. Now, I do put a caveat here of something that works within the entire design, which I'll talk more about after example 5. So if you look at this garden image, we've got this really large oversized rock, and the pots are oversized as well. But because they have been designed in place, they just work seamlessly. Here's another example of what doesn't work. Smaller can be nice, but it just doesn't have the impact of larger pots that do in the first example. And in this one, you can see the simplicity of having really large statement pieces does actually work a lot better than just this tiny collection, as nice as that collection is. And also, it doesn't have to just be plants. We've got sort of cobbles around the base of the tree. In a lot of gardens, you'd see like tiny gravel, but those cobbles are really effective. And the large pieces of timber just upright here in the background of the planting, if they'd been tiny little narrow poles, they wouldn't have been nearly as dramatic and a nice backbone to the planting as those larger pieces of wood. And here, huge great arches over the top, but it just works with such a dominant building. Having 3 large sections of wood like that, it just helps frame the view. And when the climbers go over that, it's going to be a real statement feature. And even large planting, big leaves in a small space, can look really effective. So it doesn't have to just be pots and features that are large. The planting can be large as well. Right, on to our third tip. 3 is the magic number. Now, this is particularly important when you're using hard landscaping materials. If you put too many different surfaces together, it can look very cluttered and chaotic, and it becomes very distracting. So, for example, you could have cobbles with gravel and paving. And here we've got brick edging with paving and some slate and cobbles. So if we'd have got decking in here and little tiles and mosaics and all sorts, it would have just been far too cluttered. Having the different surfaces of the gravel and cobbles with the paving and brick is just enough. And here again, we've got the cobbles, the slate paving and the granite edging for the lawn. That's just enough. Now, you can get away with more material surfaces if you're trying to create something very rustic. But if you want to add that wow factor, just try and keep things simple. So tip 4 is on similar lines to tip 3, but this applies to the whole garden, not just the hard landscaping surfaces. You need to keep it simple. Just as in our last example, if you really want to create a designer feel to your garden, then simplicity really is the key. It's very tempting when designing your garden to add things like a pond, pergola, gazebos and statues and get really carried away, but you really don't need to. Try to have one main focus, i.e. a water feature. Don't add features just for the sake of it because you think that's what designers do. You can see at the end of this garden, just the main feature, other than the chairs and tables that draws you down the garden, is a very simple face mask just on that rendered section of wall. So you've probably heard the irritating phrase, less is more. Well, it is true in gardens. Less plant varieties, less materials, less features make for a much better design. Everything you put in your garden has to earn its place, but also be given room to shine. Think of it a bit like cooking. You can't put all your favourite foods into one dish and expect it to work. You have to selectively pick which components will work together as a whole and complement one another. Too many ingredients is overwhelming and it ruins the whole dish. So simplicity is key. Here's a look at a garden that's just a little bit too fussy. They've had a go at landscaping, as you can see, but it just doesn't work with the whole garden. So tip 5. If you really want to create a design look in your garden, then choose a colour scheme to harmonise through everything you put in your garden, from materials through to plants. For example, white rendered walls with white flowers and lush green foliage, with dark green slate and cobbles with occasional accents of purple flowers and foliage would create a very unified and simple scheme. Simplicity is a great trick for creating the wow factor in your garden, as we've shown in our other examples. And here you can see quite a bright colour scheme, but there's only sort of 3 main colours. We've got the terracotta mixed with the orange red and the purple with just touches of white to soften it. And although it's very bright, it works really well. And again here the old favourite of purples, pinks, blues and whites. Again, it's very simple. Predominantly a pink scheme here works really well. And you can be as bold and bright as you like. And you can also have different colour schemes in different parts of the garden. So you don't need to feel limited with your colour palette. Just put them together in collections that blend from one side of the garden to the other if you want quite a varied scheme. But before you dash off to go all minimalist, adding the wow factor is just one part of the design process. As you'll see, it's step 7. There are other steps that must be put in place and done correctly before you put any of what we've discussed into practice. As you can see, there are 3 distinct phases with a total of 9 steps for creating a gorgeous garden, and we've covered step 7 in this video. And unless the groundwork is correct and a good design layout in place first, which is the foundation of any great garden, then in all honesty, the things we've covered in this video won't be enough to transform your garden. The real key to creating a stunning garden is getting the design layout right first. Without that, it's like trying to tile over a bumpy and uneven wall. The results will never be any good, no matter how carefully you stick the tiles on. So I really urge you to do the whole design process and not just concentrate on the finishing touches, which is adding the features and planting. You've got to have that good design layout first. Now, we do have some free web classes coming up that walk you through all of the 9 steps in a lot more detail than I'm able to cover in this video. So if you'd like to attend the free training, just click on the link below this video to choose the right class for your garden. So we have one web class specifically for small gardens, another for any size gardens, and our final option is for those of you that would like to do garden design professionally.
So I do hope you found this short video training useful, and do click on the link below this video so you can get more information on how you can attend one of our free web classes, which will walk you through everything you need to know in greater detail. So I look forward to seeing you there.